If you're a Cleveland Browns fan looking for a break from the emotional roller coaster that is the price we pay from loving then hating our Browns, then a big welcome to Cleveland Browns Anonymous, a group therapy podcast to help you survive the season. So let's start our meeting.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike, Brook, and Amari, all talking about what it takes to be the head of anything, from a gas station to a restaurant to a pro football team. We're going to be talking about our own business. We're going to be talking about the Cleveland Browns. We're talking about what leadership looks like, what makes great leaders, what makes incompetent leaders, or I shouldn't say incompetent leaders, but leaders that really are doing something they're not cut off to do, or they don't have the ability to do, which is lead. So if you've got a business where you're a great chef, you know how to cook, doesn't mean you're cut out to run a restaurant. If you're being looked at as a potential head coach, your innovations, your schemes, your brightness is secondary to your ability to manage. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's use the Browns as an organization. All right. How's that for a level? We're all good? Okay. So everybody, this is going to be on both our platforms, our Small Business Confidential, which is, a smaller footprint, and then our Cleveland Browns Anonymous. But let's expand on what we were talking about in our earlier podcast about the Browns and why this culture is so dysfunctional. I'm going to start out. I'm going to go around the horn to Amari and to Brook here. But I've been thinking a lot about this over the last couple of months because we're in the process of training up a lot of new, young, junior executives in our company. And I was rereading some of the books on head coaches, leaders, what makes good leaders in business, what makes good leaders in head coach. And one of my all-time favorite books is the biography of Bill Walsh, coach of the 49ers, who took over the 49ers, I believe in either 79 or 1980. And the 49ers were like the Browns, just hapless organization, hadn't sniffed the playoffs in about 8 years. And Bill Walsh came in, and he had a theory, or I shouldn't say theory, his business model was that there was no strata. There was no head coach and then practice squad player. Everybody from the practice squad player to the special team player to the landscaper who took care of the practice field, the maintenance guy at the Browns headquarters, they all were valued and they had an important role to play in some small or large role in getting the 49ers to the Super Bowl. And I want to counter that with what the Browns culture looks like, which is top heavy. The draft, we got to find a quarterback. There is no discussion on the organization and the culture. It is night and day from the Bill Walsh, no strata. And you're seeing it on the field with guys jumping on offside, Jets game, defensive end Cameron, special teams play, which is a disaster. And I'm listening to the media say, well, it's because we got a lot of young players. What is that about? We have a bunch of young players. This is the NFL. There is always going to be a huge amount of young players coming in. And they have to be indoctrinated in the culture. And the culture with the Browns is just nothing but lip service. I have to coach better. We expect performance. And yet nothing happens. There is a total lack of accountability. And that's the message that's sent. Now we've got the latest drama.
What's the latest drama?
Wyatt Teller's mom.
Oh, I haven't seen this yet.
Like OBJ's dad. Wyatt Teller's mom. We had Johnny Manziel fiasco. The guy's drinking, partying during the season, and yet the general manager is pushing the head coach to play him over Brian Hoyer. If you want to know what the problem with the Browns is, it's the culture. It's not the quarterback. I know I've been a broken record on it, but we're going to expand on it. Just because you're a bright, young offensive coordinator that can call plays does not make you a good head coach. Go ahead, Brook. Jump in.
I'm trying to make the connections between all the really great head coaches in the NFL. You know, the Sean McVays, the Sean Paytons, Mike Vrabel.
Vince Lombardi.
Yeah, but more like modern NFL coaches. Dan Campbell. And I would guess that all of those coaches, when they were interviewed, they had a goal, they had a plan, and they mapped it all out. And that's what you sent us with this Bill Walsh article. I think when the Browns hired Stefanski, I think on paper and in an interview, he comes across as really well organized, an adult in the room, you know, coming from the Freddie Kitchens fiasco. I'm sure the Hasms saw that as, okay, he's the safe bet. And for a couple years, he was a good coach. You know, he won Coach of the Year twice, but you can really tell he's reached his limit. And, you know, I'm fairly confident at the end of the year or at the end of the season, he will be fired. And I forget which head coach candidate it was. I think he chose to be anonymous. But he interviewed for the Browns, I think, when they were going through the Stefanski process. And that was right before COVID, because I remember we were driving to pick up our second dog and it had got announced that they had hired Stefanski. And I remember at the time I was upset because I was like, that's the boring pick. But in my gut, it told me like, that's the safe pick. But there was this coach that was anonymous that it came out a year ago. And he said, you know, when I went in there, I suggested to the Haslems, I'm not talking about firing people who work like in the office, but from the strength and conditioning coaches throughout, there is this stink. There is this cultural problem that needs to be eradicated. And in order for this team to grow, you need to start fresh, and everyone needs to be on the same plan, from the strength and conditioning coach to the chefs to the, you know, assistant special teams coach. Like, everyone needs to be on the same plan. And then from that, the head coach, like you said, and I don't think you said this in our podcast, but the head coach's job is to coach the coaches. And then the coach's jobs are to teach the players. And right now, I can just tell that from the sideline outbursts from Jerry Jeudy, from the offside penalties to the disastrous special team side of our team, there is no plan. There's no leader. There's no Dan Campbell on that team. There's no Mike Vrabel on that team. And I think making that connection to a company, if your boss isn't on the same page with your managers, and then your managers aren't on the same page with the crew guys, you're like walking on a landmine, a landfield. I mean, there are going to be problems that come up left and right. There's not going to be a plan on how to solve it. And so there are some really easy similarities and connections you can make to running a small business, to running a football team. The one kind of TV show I first thought of that kind of also really depicts this well, I don't know if people out there watch it, I do, is The Bear.
Yeah, I'd seen part of it.
The restaurant show where you just watched that first season. Amari, I don't know if you've seen that show.
I've seen a lot of the first season.
So, and I'll make this really quick for people who haven't watched it. Basically, this young hotshot chef takes over his brother's beef sandwich company in Chicago, and he has a plan. He wants to turn it into, we're gonna get good quality foods. We're gonna call everyone chef. We're gonna keep it clean. We're gonna be on time. And his whole staff were they weren't used to that level of professionalism, and
They wanted to sabotage him even.
they wanted to sabotage. And believe me, I'm pretty sure that happens on a football team where, defensive coordinators would, hell, it happened to the Browns. The offensive coordinator was sabotaging Hugh Jackson. So
And you had the general manager, Ray Farmer, sabotaging the head coach.
yeah, so
And you got Haslam, who's oblivious to the toxicity that's happening around it. And you've got the media, which endlessly chases cliches. Like, really, does it matter who's calling the plays? Who's calling the culture? That's more important.
Right.
And that's what you were talking about with the Bear.
Yes.
Go ahead, Brook.
yeah, to sum it up, if your team isn't on the same page and your leader isn't enforcing that, the probability that things are going to get screwed up is super high. I don't care if you're running a restaurant. I don't care if you're running a contracting company. I don't care if you're running a $7 billion football team. It's those simple things. And
It's the blocking and tackling,
it's showing up on time. It's
keeping it clean.
wearing the right clothes. It's taking a shower in the morning. It's not yelling and swearing at, or infighting. It's keeping your trucks clean. It's having a to-do list. And so
I think one of the big things that people get into when they get into a business, like own a football team, that's just another business, right? And it's a brutal business. It's a Darwinian business. If you don't win, you're fired. There's an evolution quality there. But when you really stop and think about it, when you just say you're coming back from college, you graduated from college, and you've worked at the Culinary Institute, and you're going to start a restaurant. The immediate reaction for most people is when they hear it, well, that's great. He's going to start a business. That makes sense. Nobody's stopping you think, well, wait a minute. Do you know how to manage? Do you know how to write a business plan? Do you know how to fire somebody? Do you know how to market? Do you know how to price point? So you've got all these people starting these various businesses, from restaurant to woodworking. I'm going to be a photographer. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. On the surface, it sounds wonderful. God forbid they're saying, like I said in the earlier podcast, I'm going to start a trash collection business. No, it's something sexy. And so nobody is challenging that person and asking them, do you know how to manage? Are you a salesman? Do you know how to sell? Because selling and managing go hand in hand, like teaching. If you had a table, it would be manage, sell, teach, organize. Those are like the 4 pillars there. Organize means you have a plan. Teach means you're inspiring and you're teaching everybody what that plan is. Selling means the ability to sell your product, but more importantly, the ability to adjust. Because when you're selling somebody, one of the core principles is always meeting customer objections. You're closing them. You're saying, do you want to hire me to do this? And if they don't say yes, you're supposed to find out what the objections are and meet those objections. Even if you don't sell it, you're getting that feedback. You're getting that critical feedback. And then, of course, managing. So when I think about the Browns, and I think about that young person coming out of college who's starting his own business, but let's just go with Browns because that's just so top of the topic here. Does anybody ask whether this coach knows how to coach at that head coach level? I have never heard that. Do you know how to manage, Kevin Stefanski? I mean, the great coaches in recent memory, Sean Payton, look what he did to Russell Wilson. Bill Parcells developing Romo, Tony Romo, getting the most out, Jimmy Johnson. These people were psychologists. They were getting in everybody's head. Everybody was a snowflake there. Bill Walsh getting on his coaches. And from those great coaches came those great coaching trees. Parcells had Tom Coughlin, Super Bowl winner for the Giants twice. Jacksonville, he was their initial coach, right? You got fourth Bill Belichick. I mean, here's a guy who's hiring these coaches and letting them coach, but he's all over them and their players. Bill Walsh was the same way. The Bill Walsh tree, Andy Reid, I believe. I know it was that Green Bay Packers coach who took him Brett Favre's season. Do you remember who that was?
Mike Holmgren.
Mike Holmgren. Mike Holmgren came from the Bill Walsh tree.
John Gruden.
John Gruden, yeah. How does that happen? Who comes from the Cleveland Browns coaching tree? I mean, ask yourself that. And then ask yourself, why aren't we talking about this as a community, as a culture, in the media? Why aren't we challenging Jimmy Haslam and the Browns organization for their utter incompetence in hiring and developing a head coach? What's your thoughts, Amari?
You know, it's from my own personal experience, some of the stuff we've been going through, you know, working with some of our subs, you know, conversations like we had this morning, or, you know, talking to other people here about how they're managing. And it's all these little, what feel like small things that when you're lax about, you know, the showing up on time, the dress, the attitude, how you're communicating, that is really what compounds into all this stress over time.
Right.
And is what drives you over a cliff, feeling overwhelmed, feeling anxious, feeling exhausted at the end of the day. And you look up and realize, I didn't even really get the stuff that I needed to get done.
Right.
And it's like, no, these things are not acceptable, and they're not optional. They're not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's the floor, not the ceiling, for guys to show up on time or communicate early if they're going to be late for any whatever reason. Because it's like all these little things that just take out little chunks of your day. Oh, this person showed up late. Let me, you know, get them set up even though I had time. Right?
Yeah, and why are they showing up late? You know, Brian Dable got fired as the Giants coach. And it later came out that Abdul Carter, their number one draft pick, and a couple other people, they were late for team meetings.
Then he got benched.
I mean, really, and he did nothing on that. I mean, to me, the kiss of death, I mean, you're absolutely right, Amari. You know, it is always the little things that connected is the foundation of your organization. You know Vince Lombardi time. Just go watch the HBO documentary. Hey, everybody in the media who's listening to this, go watch that HBO documentary on Vince Lombardi. Lombardi time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes early. Everybody ran on Lombardi time. Lombardi was relentless in terms of not jumping off sides, motion penalties. He took the playbook, he shredded it, reduced it into, you know, the Packers sweep, core things. When you see championship teams, their special teams are elite. They're not jumping off sides. They're not doing dumb penalties. The Patriots in their run, the Parcells the 49ers. They have a zero tolerance from that standpoint. The Browns don't. When you see arguing on the sidelines and nothing's done about it, that's a sign of a bad head coach because they're not maintaining the culture. They're not protecting the quarterback. When you see special teams that are so dysfunctional, they're giving up long touchdowns. They're not scoring any touchdowns, right? Unless they're going against the Raiders, who have even worse special teams. That's a sign of a bad head coach. And I am so tired of why the media is not calling that out. If you can't have great special teams, it's not the player's fault. It's not that they're young. It's not that our special teams coach is not that good. It's all head coaching.
Yeah, that's not the main problem. It all goes back to the head coach.
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. Getting your house ready to sell, or you just need some basic repairs, and you can't get anybody to come out or even return your phone call. Then call Riley Painting and Contracting, your home mechanics, for all of your home repair needs, from electrical, plumbing, roof repairs, and getting your house ready to sell. 45 years in the business, a AAA on the Better Business Bureau, and we're on the preferred contractor list in Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights. You can contact us by calling 216-371-8160 and leave a message. And guess what? We'll call you back.
And Amari, to your point, things aren't going to be perfect, but I agree. The worst thing you can do when those little hiccups come up is to not address them.
Mm-hmm.
It sends a message.
Yeah, it sends a message.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Because I can tell you, like, again, if it's happening here, let's say at a property, at warehouse work, or if it's happening at a football practice, it's going to happen at the game. It's going to happen at a customer's house.
Mm-hmm.
So, and plus too, it also reinforces your authority
Mm-hmm.
and your presence with these subs.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, hey, no, I'm still in charge here. I'm watching what you're doing. You're 15 minutes late,
Right.
Yeah.
And
So,
you're not dressed.
Yeah.
And you're not cleaning your truck. You're not clean. If a restaurant, you're not cleaning your station.
And for me, it's like, if I'm running into these situations where I might feel overwhelmed or getting pulled into too many places, I have to look in the mirror about what am I doing that's labeling that.
Yeah.
I'm making my own bed and then complaining that I got to sleep in it.
You're right. Right. The reality is, with the Browns, the head coach doesn't know how to be a head coach. It's real simple. And we have an organization that does not know how to hire a head coach.
they don't, yeah.
They don't know how to hire a head coach. I mean, we're talking 30 years here. From Pat Shurmur to Roman. I mean, it is endless, the incompetent coaches that have been hired here. Hugh Jackson was as bad as they get. And so you have you think, Jimmy Haslam is a billionaire owner. You'd think he'd know how to hire a head coach. Al Lerner, another billionaire, he didn't know he hired Carbon Policy as his GM. Because they don't really think, they don't challenge themselves. What am I looking for in a head coach?
Mm-hmm.
They're not really asking that. And the media is not challenging that. When Hugh Jackson was hired for the Browns, nobody in the media printed what they were saying in Oakland about Hugh Jackson, that he was a disaster. I didn't read one story about that. We found that after he blew up the Browns, when he tried to get A.J. McCarron with a second-round draft pick. and Sashi Brown took a bullet. I mean, this is so deeply rooted in the Browns' dysfunction, this lack of culture and the lack of focus on a head coach. Instead, it's cliche. It's we're going to the Greenbrier, right? We've got these steel quarterback from UCLA, DTR, right? Remember how he was the next coming? They were real happy. He processed things. Sounds like Dylan Gabriel, does it? Here's another guy who processes things, sees the field, right? Who's making these picks? Who is not disciplining Johnny Manziel when he's partying? That's the problem with the Browns. And our draft is not going to solve that problem. So people, you better wake up. And you've got to ask yourself, if you're running your business, you can't have people showing up late. That's got to be 0. Because that tells you how much they are vested in your company. And sometimes it's the person who's showing up every day for work, on time, putting in a full day. That's the person you develop, right? You don't develop the superstar. I mean, look at Tony Romo. Look at Dak Prescott. Look at these people that were developed within the organization. Look at, what's his face? The quarterback for Green Bay now. Jordan Love. Mm-hmm. Jordan Love, his first year, was a disaster. Aaron Rodgers sat on the bench behind Brett Favre for a year or two, and then they let Brett Favre go. That is an organization that thinks in long term. And I want to mention this, in our own organization, we had that tragedy where we had a guy die on a fall at our company about 10 years ago plus. And that guy was missing time, not cleaning his truck, showing up late. And guess what? He was smoking marijuana on the job. Why do you think he fell? So that was happening, and I learned volumes from that. And now, as a result of that tragedy and a huge fine from OSHA, which I deserved, now it's don't argue with me about dress. Don't argue me about I don't want to hear your arguments. I don't want to hear an employee or a crew member tell me, I start pushing back that, yeah, well, I'll do it tomorrow, or I, don't want to do it. No, because that is setting a bad example, and that's starting to rot out your foundation. And then lo and behold, what do you think happens? The whole building collapses because you have that rot at the foundation.
Yeah. No, that's nothing else to be said there.
Yeah, and what we're seeing in the press conference by Coach Stefanski is just confirming the total lack of any kind of head coach leadership. He's not calling out players. No, I talked to Jerry Jeudy about him talking to Shadur. I said, you do that one more time, you're benched. Right? And I'm benching him because this behavior is not. What is so wrong with saying that? What is so wrong with saying that?
There's nothing wrong with it for him. He just doesn't want to do that. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Doesn't want to be a head coach. You have to do that as a head coach. So listen, Andrew, Jimmy, if you're listening to this, do yourself a favor, will you? Look in the mirror and say, we don't know how to hire a head coach, and we need help. Hire a 5-star executive recruitment person. I mean, somebody really good. And then go through Every head coach we've had. Come on, you're an analytics guy, Andrew, right? Go through all the analytics and start building a new model of how we look for head coaches like we look for quarterbacks. Okay? We know we're not going to get a quarterback who's 5'8", who can't throw, who can't make the throws needed in the NFL level, right? We know that. Okay, well, look at that. Put the same analytics to the head coach. Ask the assistant coach, what player did you fire? What player did you demote? What did you do when you had players acting up?
Yeah, it's like there has to be some questions, like a test, you know, where you can be like, hey, you know, some psychological analysis of like, you know, how would you handle this stuff? And I would bet my savings account that the great coaches that are coaching now all answer the same questions the same kind of way.
Oh, yeah.
And the bad coaches answer the same questions the same kind of way.
And a lot of times, if you're going to hire a retread, like Andy Reid going to KC, right? Or Jim Schwartz, who crashed and burned in Detroit. But you got to ask yourself, was it really the coach? Or was it the organization he was connected to? Because the Lions, under general manager Matt Millen, they were as bad as the Browns in terms of culture and development. It was only when they brought in a new GM and Dan Campbell, they got on the same page and they created a new culture in the Detroit Lions, a culture of true accountability. So if you're going to get a retread in, ask them, what have they learned after getting fired? And there better be some learning that they can talk about, because that's what you're looking for. And I really, really think we need a culture guy like Dan Campbell, like Sean Payton, like Tom Coughlin. I mean, those are the people, Andrew, you should be looking at, not some bright young guy. I mean, the NFL world is littered with these OCs and DCs like Brian Daboll, and who was the coach of the Chargers a couple years ago. I mean, look at Harbaugh. He comes in with the Chargers, and already they're competitive.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? And who was the coach prior to that?
Some young whiz.
Young whiz guy.
Yeah.
Guy down in Miami, another whiz guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, like getting specific on the Browns, the roster is good. The defense is great. I think we have something in Shador, or at least we have something that warrants seeing more. And I keep going back to you put this roster in the hands of, let's just say, the best coach out there, Sean McVay.
It's competitive.
What's their record?
Yeah.
You know, 9-7.
Yeah, they're in the playoffs.
10-6.
With this roster, yeah.
You know, so, and that just goes back to it's the coaching.
Yeah. Now, let's take, for example, will somebody in the media do a story on what exactly they are doing on special teams? Like, take, for example, this poor guy, this poor rookie. I mean, I think I talked about it earlier. How about bringing out a wind machine at the practice field?
Or a veteran.
A wind machine.
A rookie catching punts in Cleveland in November on a unseasonably cold, windy day. That's just stupid.
Right. Can we eliminate the rah-rah cliche bullshit and start getting into teaching them how to do their job? Did anybody give Corley, the guy who screwed up that kick return, did they give them a pop quiz on what you do? Made him write on the blackboard 50 times before they assigned him? I mean, what exactly are you doing to coach these people up? And again, you've got arguments, drama, Wyatt Teller's mom, OBJ's dad, Johnny Manziel drinking. I mean, those are red flags. And if I'm the owner, Jimmy, I'm calling the coach in and I'm reading him the riot act. What are you doing about this? Right? That's what owner is supposed to do. Not sit up in your ivory tower counting billions and figuring out what you're going to charge people to, go to the new stadium, right? I mean, build a product. Get down, start walking the grocery aisles here. Get your hands dirty. Start challenging without undercutting your coach.
Look what the new Colts owner is doing.
After they got rid of Irsay?
Well, no, he died.
I know.
So his
God got rid of him. He was a Colts fan.
So his daughter took over, and she wears the headset because she doesn't really know a lot about football. She's kind of getting her hands dirty. Look what the Colts are doing.
Right. Look at Al Davis with the Raiders and his incompetent son who's a new owner. No, there are lessons to learn not only with successful coaches, but as I said earlier, with coaches that crash and burn. There are lessons out there. Why is this company doing so well? And why is this company failing? Why is Costco so good? I mean, think about it. Walmart's coming on. Walmart's coming on with their new delivery, their new bricks and mortar, competing with Amazon. Why is this restaurant surviving and this restaurant isn't? I mean, you've got to do an MRI on these examples to actually learn. And that's what the Browns and the media and this whole Browns nation is not looking at. There are reasons why people succeed. It's not because of what school you went to, what your degree is, what your grades are. There are endless X factors that lead to success. If you're going to have your own business, everybody, it ain't 9 to 5. It's 24/7. You got to be thinking about that all the time, And you got to ask yourself, do I have the stomach and the spine to do what I have to do to make sure that my organization is run correctly? And that's not easy. That is not easy. And a lot of times it takes a lot of failure to get to that point. A lot of failure, a lot of mistakes. Yes. So if you're interviewing a head coach, first question, what mistakes have you made in your coaching career? That's going to speak volumes of what. Does this guy have the capability to grow into the job? Right? How do you deal with adversity? Had he fired anybody? Show me an example where you took somebody off the scrap heap and made them into a superstar. You know who's done that in the college level? Read about the guy who's coaching Indiana. Guy's amazing.
Yep.
Okay, look at John Harbaugh. 49ers, Super Bowl, Michigan, national championship. What's he doing? What exactly is he doing that's getting these results? Do you know that Andrew and Jimmy? Mary Kay, the media? Does anybody know this? How about a detailed Sunday magazine think piece that talks about this? Or maybe a 5-part series. But we're going to explore that going forward on both our Small Business Confidential and the Cleveland Browns. Because it is the head coach stupid. And it's the culture stupid. Final thoughts, Brook and Amarin?
No, it's not the quarterback. It's not the players. It's the guys who are leading. It's the coach. It's the owner. It's the GM.
Amarin?
Yeah, I think that point is interesting about, the roster is there, but it's an infrastructural issue. And I mean, I like it that we're doing better than the Browns are doing. That's as a company, way better. But, it's a similar thing where it's like everyone that we have working here works hard and is very capable, and the way for us to move everything up a level are these same kind of infrastructural points that we got to make sure we're hitting consistently.
Right.
Especially with how people are being managed.
Right. And I think Don't go down that rabbit hole, the educational thing. We're going to talk about that later. I mean, what exactly do you need to learn to be successful? And and you're seeing that. You talk about that sometimes with AA. You got to learn gratitude. You got to have attitude. You got to be able to grow into the job.
Mm-hmm. Well, the main thing is, I was taught early on, if you have a wobbly foundation, you're going to relapse.
Mm.
It's the little things. It's going to your meeting. It's making your fucking bed in the morning. It's saying a prayer. It's calling people when you say you're going to make a call. And that's why I think I love this saying so much, and you do. Sometimes it's not easy, but it's pretty simple.
Mm.
And you can make a lot of connections to that with the coaching. It's like, I see my wide receiver lashing out at my rookie quarterback. This isn't going to be easy to talk to him about, but it's simple. Hey, shut the fuck up. You're benched.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, why isn't that getting done? Why are you allowing that on the sidelines? How about asking that question at a press conference? Why do you keep saying to people you have to coach better? Why do you keep saying that? Come on. Look at media. Are you part of the solution? Are you part of the problem? I mean, really? So we'll end on that note. Got a lot to talk about next week. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Browns Anonymous podcast with Mike Riley. We have a lot more content on the way as we get this new podcast started. You can also check out some of our other podcasts, like the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast, and other new ones that will start soon. On any platform that you find yourself listening to us on, feel free to leave us a like or comment or follow us. It always helps.